Hello guys, today I'm going to go over O.D.E.N v2. Last time on this channel I uploaded a video of O.D.E.N v1, or the omnidirectional electronozzle. If you recall from last time, O.D.E.N v1 looked something like this. And the whole idea of this cannon right here was to be able to go in all four directions when you would jump down. But there's three main problems with O.D.E.N v1. The first is obviously the size and complexity. If you wanted to make this in survival, you would have to get quite a bit of redstone and blocks, and I use stuff such as slime blocks and copper bulbs as well, which aren't the worst to get, either of them, but I figured I can try and, reduce the size and maybe cut back on some of the blocks that might be a little bit more annoying to get in survival. The second problem was the operational complexity. As you see here, I had a 5-step process for how to actually use O.D.E.N before you would actually even launch, which would be the 6th step. And the third and the biggest problem was the fact of the entity cramming blocks. You had to place a vine pretty much every time you wanted to use more than 60 silverfish with this cannon, and that was a big issue for me. It was bugging me and I felt like I had a lot to improve. So I figured that I'd give it another shot, and I came up with this design right here, which is the new O.D.E.N v2, and as you see, it is a lot smaller. Now, the credits do go to a friend of mine who reminded me that when it comes to entity cramming, most people think of vines, ladders as the usual suspects, but there's a fourth option, which are weeping vines, and twisting vines. And unlike the other entity cramming blocks, they can grow from bottom up, which allows them to actually be placed in the kill chamber like so, and still not allow silverfish to escape. So that's what really made this whole design possible, is using twisting vines instead of pushing the silverfish from the side to the scaffolding. And honestly, the fact that I didn't think of this at first and chose to go with a way more complex solution just goes to show how much was left to be desired with the original design. I guess a fourth and kind of a little bonus to O.D.E.N v2 is that I made it a lot more consistent in terms of the timings. Each chamber here represents the direction you can go, and you actually can force yourself into crawl mode with your elytra on. You can hold shift, crawl to the middle of the piston here, and as long as you're holding shift, you shouldn't fall off. Then you stop here and you just simply aim at the lines. And now, when you do commence the launch, which I'll show, all you would have to do is spam your spacebar as soon as this light turns on, and you should get sent flying. And of course, we have this for all four directions. So yeah, that's the overview. And we're back. Right now I'm going to show you how to use O.D.E.N v2. It's going to be a lot simpler than O.D.E.N v1, and it should be more consistent as well with the timings and actually getting launched properly. It depends less on jumping at the right angle and everything like that, and just spamming spacebar at a certain time whenever the light turns on, which I'll show now. So first thing is to turn it on. I already turned it on before, so I have an infestation potion running, but you turn it on and then you load it. So when you load it, an infestation potion will get dispensed, and silverfish will spawn from the armadillos and get pushed down the one by one properly. This piston right here is to prevent the vine from growing too tall and going up to this block, so this will cut it off here, so that the silverfish can only be as high as this block here. And then this vine will get cut off by this piston as well, so that it'll only be 1 block tall before the actual launch. So even if you come back to this and the vine is all the way up here, it's not a big deal. I have like 200 silverfish already in here, so I'm going to turn this off. That's going to seal the chamber, and then they'll just die in the magma blocks. So we have like 200 silverfish in this chamber. We should get flung pretty far. Now I can choose any direction, but how it's going to work is that I'm going to step on that pressure plate to commence the launch, and then I'll have about like 10 seconds to get in position, so I need to know which direction I already want to go. But I can choose to go, for example, here. You walk forward all the way into the block here, and then flick the trapdoor. That'll force you into crawl mode. Make sure you have your elytra on. Then you're going to hold shift, move forward as much as you can, and then you can aim at the lines just straight. When we actually do the launch, we'll get in position like so, we'll aim at the lines, and then as soon as this redstone lamp turns on, we're going to spam spacebar as fast as we can, and we should get launched. So I'll go into survival, and you should see that happen. So, step on the pressure plate, go here, hold shift, aim at the lines, spacebar, and you see we get launched. And that was about 200 silverfish or so. So we got flung, it looks like, currently 6,000 blocks, 6.3 and counting. And of course I can just glide all the way to wherever I'm trying to go to, but that was about 200 silverfish. So if we were to glide all the way, the first 5 seconds was about 5,000 blocks, and then we can glide for another 4,000 blocks if we wanted to, for example. Alright. The last thing to talk about is how it works. I'm going to try and keep this short because I know a lot of people don't really care. They just want to see how to use it and get the schematic to build it on their world. But just a quick explanation. If you haven't seen O.D.E.N v1, I explain a lot of the basic mechanics in there, but just to TLDR, any type of undead mob, so like a zombie or a zombie pigman, if you're in the nether, will frighten armadillos, and it'll make them basically be immune to the damage of a normal campfire. It can't be a soul campfire, it has to be a normal campfire. But when they're near an undead mob, they'll curl up into a shell, and that'll give them damage resistance, and the damage resistance is strong enough to basically make them immune to the campfire ticks. Because of that, when you throw an infestation potion on the armadillos, each time that they take damage, they'll spawn a silverfish from the potion, and that'll spawn a bunch of the silverfish in this kind of funneling chamber, and this piston pushers will funnel them into the 1x1 kill chamber down there. And all of that's pretty simple. When you step on the pressure plate, it's going to just go with a T flip-flop, and that turns on a clock, and it pushes them. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. When they funnel into the bottom here, to actually commence the launch, this circuit here is basically a pulse extender into a falling edge circuit, very similar to the circuits that I basically spammed on O.D.E.N v1, but there's only one this time. And so that goes to 2 dispensers, one that shoots out the wind charge on the silverfish, and then 3 ticks later, we shoot the firework, which actually kills the silverfish. Now, the reason why this design is really nice is because it doesn't require a slime block. It just uses normal pistons, no sticky pistons. Sorry, there's the use of sticky pistons in the design, but there's no sticky pistons for funneling the silverfish. I tried to use as much normal pistons as I could. I think there's only 2 or 3 sticky pistons in here, but you'll see in the schematic. Anywho, the magma blocks are necessary to damage the silverfish, to weaken them, so that they become one-shot to the fireworks. Because the silverfish will take no fall damage when they land on the weeping vine here. So the magma blocks are actually very important to allow the silverfish to actually guaranteed die from the fireworks. For these fireworks specifically as well, I would recommend double stars shaped, so 2 stars. If you don't do 2 stars, I'm not sure if it would still one-shot, but it doesn't take that much more material to craft. So if you have any sort of creeper farm already going, or general mob farm, you have a ton of gunpowder, should be no issue to fund this cannon. And the last thing here is these are just redstone circuits to connect the piston retracting and the lamps to help with timing. The pistons are necessary when you're in crawling mode. You're on top of these pistons. They need to retract to allow your character to actually fall down so that you can go forward. Otherwise, you lose a lot of your speed when you get launched. So the pistons retract pretty much at the exact same time that the silverfish actually die, and the wind charge goes off and propels you forward. So it's all part of the sequence, and you can see that there. If I step on this, you'll see that the pistons retract right after the fireworks, like so. And for that split second, your character will fall, and you should get launched. And that's basically it. It's a lot simpler than O.D.E.N with all the moving parts. And for the most part, it's pretty compact. You could definitely compact this even more so. Some of these circuits I chose to go very wide on to make as much space as possible in each chamber to make sure you don't get caught on any blocks or you don't hit any blocks and collide and die instantly. So that's why, for example, this circuit is so low here to make a lot of clearance for this chamber. But technically speaking, you can compact this even further if you wanted. It probably would just be a little bit more difficult in terms of space for the chambers. But overall, that's basically it. It's a pretty simple design that you can use as an omnidirectional electro launcher, and it should be consistent as long as you're spamming that spacebar as soon as that light turns on these lamps. Every time you should get launched. And yeah, that's it. I'll leave the schematic in the description, similar to O.D.E.N, so you guys can build it. And of course, in the actual schematic, you don't need black stained glass in these slabs. This is just kind of for decoration. I'm not a big builder, so that's why I wanted to make it look kind of nice, at least in this main platform, but you can use whatever you want. But that's about it. That's O.D.E.N V2. Thank you for watching.